with the sirens in the background, it's time to talk about global affairs. Very appropriate, yes. So you live in interesting times. More siren, background side effects.
They must have heard you channeling.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on the planet right now. You're here for benching, to send out that light to the world without agenda. Tough to do, particularly when you say, oh, all those poor people that are losing their homes, that are losing their lives, that are having to flee their country and everything else. This is kind of, I don't want to say it's a test, but it's a test of your compassion. Can you shine that light? Because the moment you get even just a little bit of agenda in there, and the moment the agenda could be as simple as saying, this should be over in a week. I'm going to shine my light for it to be over in a week, or I hope a certain side wins, or whatever. Suddenly you're pulled into all the junk, all the duality, everything else going on. You're no longer shining your light. You're adding to the chaos. Now, I want to clarify, because I know most of you also have your personal opinions, and that's fine. I'm talking about when you're consciously benching. You're consciously, whether it's a chair, whether you're out literally on a park bench or taking a walk, but when you're conscious that you are shining your light, that's the time for no agenda. And pretty soon the agenda, if you have one as a person, as an identity, even that agenda starts going away, because you realize that it's so surface. It's not really a true wisdom and understanding. But if right now you say, as the human, with your opinion that you hope for certain outcomes, that's okay. I'm not encouraging it, but it's okay. But when you bench, when you're sitting there in your benching mode, in your master mode, shining your light, no agendas. Now, I've talked about it to a degree in Kihak and also the recent Kasama reunion, but I'll bring it up here. There are 4 major underlying energy dynamics happening on the planet right now. Everything can be attributed to these 4 things that you're going to be seeing here on the screen. Number 1, sovereignty. There's an underlying desire by enough humans on the planet for their freedom and sovereignty that is moving the currents of energy, of change right now that are pretty dynamic. Years and years ago, I made a statement, asked a question to the audience, do humans want freedom? I said for the most part not. For the most part, they still don't, but there's enough that do, that want true sovereignty, that it has caused a huge change in the energy currents on the planet. And enough people now desiring and seeking sovereignty or freedom at certain levels. That's a big one. Next one is truth. Humans are desperate for truth right now. They don't believe hardly anything, if anything. They certainly don't believe politicians or religious leaders. They don't believe commercials. Actually, there's probably more truth and belief in a television commercial than there is in the Pope, but that's another story. The humans are searching for truth, and truth whether it's meaning of life, truth whether it's their relationship and their family, truth whether it's history. History is not true. People have assumed for a long time that it was because it's in a book. But they're learning now it's not really true. It was one perspective, usually written by the victor. So they're learning that it's not. And in that they're saying, but what is truth? Where is it? And of course, as you know from yourself, they're looking out there for truth. They're looking for something to believe in, whether it's a person, an organization. They're looking at even a product. They don't care. They're looking for something where they can find truth. And ultimately, that search will bring them back to themselves, ultimately. Well, you know what that's like. You start out there, and then ultimately you bring it back here. there's a huge dynamic on the planet right now dealing with energy. And I say energy, and that's every different level. Your fuel energy for your vehicles and home heating and everything else. But also, what is energy? And personal energy. And as I'm always amused at all the energy drinks that are out there right now. I, I, I think we should do an Adamus energy drink, a big kick in the ass. It'd keep you going all day long. A lot of energy drinks because humans are searching for energy, and it's understandable because that's half the reason why you came here to this planet in the first place, to understand the relationship between consciousness and energy. So right now, there's this kind of overwhelming movement to understand energy. And it's mostly right now focused on the energy of the planet and gas. Oh, gas prices are going up. Good, because that is going to move humans off of the reliance on basically what was fossil fuel energy and force right now something. Sometimes I wished I could just show you the overview, but feel into me and maybe you'll get it. All these dynamics, as well as the combined with artificial intelligence, is creating a very real and potentially, potentially coming into your lives, free energy. If fuel energy was cheap or easily available, it didn't pollute, nobody would be really looking into these things. But right now, there's this real drive to look into what I call free energy, non-polluting, basically sustainable energy that doesn't come from fuel, that doesn't come from the wind or the ocean, but from an amazing discovery that's probably within 3 years of becoming a reality, at least in the laboratory, that soon. And then it's going to take a while to get it to market and to get through all the other things that are associated with it. But there's a tremendous movement for energy on the planet. And finally, the last one, power. Power has had its day, but it's still trying to hang on. Power is when somebody falsely believes that the energy is outside of them and they have to get whatever they can. First in an energy, but ultimately in controlling other people, personality power, power over others. Power is on its last legs, so to speak, because humanity is rejecting it at so many different levels. They rejected it at a corporate level a while back, and it had a big impact. They're now rejecting it at government levels and at financial levels and church levels. They think they're, for instance, speaking out against the church, but ultimately it's really about the church's power. Not about what the church believes, but how they held power over so many people. Those are the main energy drivers, things that are moving the currents of energy on the planet, causing transformation. You can take those and look at any situation on the planet and basically distill it down to those four things. It would be one or more of those elements. What you're seeing right now in Eastern Europe with Ukraine and Russia isn't just about Ukraine and Russia. Don't fool yourself. It's about the world. It's about every world power right now. There's a huge power vortex that's swirling right now over that part of the world on the Ukraine and Russian border. But it's not going to be, it will not be satisfied with just that area. It will grow and grow and grow. Meaning that it's not just about a little conflict between two countries. And yes, perhaps President Putin will try to expand his power going beyond Ukraine. These are all things we'll talk about in just a moment, but have yet to be determined. It's a huge power vortex because power is hanging on right now. It's looking to get more power, and Power, if it was a person or identity, it knows that it's harder to get power than it ever used to be. Before, back when, relatively easy to get more power. You get an army, you got power. Start a business, you could have power. Start a religion, you could have a lot of power. But right now, power, you cannot get power like it used to. It has to work really hard at it, and that's pissing power off. And pissed off power is not pretty. So it's angry, and it's going to try to get more, and it's trying to suck in anything and everything it can. And then you put into it the situation with that I mentioned in Kihak. President Putin. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying good or bad. I don't care if you're a Russian or Brazilian. It doesn't matter. But he has a past lifetime as Saint Vladimir, going back to hundreds or thousands, back a lot of years to about 880 or so. And he's reincarnated in this lifetime, becomes the president of Russia, but as Saint Vladimir always felt that Kiev was the power center for all of Europe and potentially the world, that it should be the new Rome. And this power dynamic from Putin has come into this lifetime, has played right into this whole thing with power on the planet, getting desperate, and they're playing this game together. What President Putin wants is Kiev. It's his kind of holy place, and from there to expand out. And don't get upset with Putin. It's just he represents power along with many other world leaders. You could see how all the power dynamics are lining up right now on the planet. And what is interesting about power is not very smart. Power is powerful, but it's not very smart. It's raising itself up. It's glorifying itself, this power is. But it doesn't realize, it doesn't have the intelligence, the wisdom to understand that just a little bit of light will wash it away, will dissolve it away. It's the what do you call it, the kryptonite of what to Superman. This light is to power. It's what Calder is giving me some examples. So the light would be like the bucket of water thrown on the Wicked Witch of the West. Psst. Power's not smart enough to realize that, and that's exciting. People are afraid of power. They say, oh, it's so powerful. Not really. Actually, its weak spot is light. Its weak spot. So what do? We shine our light without agenda. If you're going to agenda, now you're giving power what it wants. It wants bias. It wants agenda. It wants duality. It wants humans to take sides, light and dark. Power loves that. And power doesn't care. It just loves that duality. But it doesn't realize that just a little light and power loses its balance. It starts to wobble and shake, and then it blows apart. That's what we're here doing right now on the planet at this time of power coming to an end. I mean, you have little power, insignificant power, but humans in general have come to see lately that they're tired of power. Power trips from their parents, power trips from organizations and businesses, but more than anything, they're tired of power trips from government. Power potentially could come to an end, or at least the way you've known it. And that's why what you're doing right now here, shining your light on the planet, has such an impact on power. We're not doing it to try to get rid of power, not at all. We're not trying to force power out. We're saying, hey, power, here's my light. How do you like that? How do you like that? So many things could happen right now. in this conflict, which is centered on Ukraine and Russia. The troops could move in, Russian troops could move in very swiftly, take over Ukraine very fast, and it could collapse almost instantly. But funny thing is that with chamber benching, it hasn't really happened, has it? It could be a long, long, drawn-out war, a bloody war with countless lives lost, kind of the next iteration of Afghanistan for Russia, in there for a long time and a lot of bloody battles, and it could last a long time. But right now, the world does not have the patience for that. This thing could happen with the situation that where they sit down to negotiate and work out a truce. Sit down at the table and talk. Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. Power doesn't like negotiating. Power likes overwhelming. Power wants everything to itself. It's not going to give up part of its power. And again, I'm not saying don't look at just the surface like President Putin. Look at the dynamics of power and energy on the planet. Or it could be that that something happens with enough light shining on the planet that power starts crumbling. Power starts falling apart. It could be that with the light shining without agenda, that actually the world unifies. The world unifies. And these past years have been so divisive all over the planet. Divisive in just about every way, because everything is coming up right now for resolution. But could you imagine the world unifying right now to say no more? We won't tolerate it. We'll whether it's cutting off the financial systems, whether it's just doing things that will absolutely stop this invasion from going any further. But can you imagine with some light how the world can unify right now? And I've seen it happening. I've seen when you have major corporations all over the world that are giving up some profits and revenues and saying, no, we're going to cut off sending products to Russia. You're going to see countries stopping economic agreements. You're going to see them ending old relationships as a way of saying this power cannot go on anymore. So one of the things I see as a result of some light shining around the planet without agenda, but I see that countries and people around the world are getting together in unity to say no more. No more. And whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's United States of America or any other country, saying no more of the power games. It's got to come to an end now. No more wars with arms where people get killed. I think humans are sick enough of it, but they weren't sick enough of it. They got complacent. But with some light shining upon the real potentials right now on the planet, perhaps there'll be a very interesting outcome in all this. And again, we've got to do it without agenda. But I'm just saying there's a variety of different scenarios right now. And you can imagine when the light shines upon them, you can imagine which ones may come to the surface and become reality.